takes off the... Mickey has more character in his face when he's got the makeup off than when he does on.
I said, but we can go further if you want. And Frank went, really? We can go further? I said, yeah. And he said, well, here, this is... Let me talk to you a minute. So he takes a piece of paper and he does the sketch. And he goes, that's Marv. As soon as he did that, I saw how the brow came out and how the nose came out and flattened, and then the chin comes in, and I was like, I got it. Exactly. So we do the makeup, and he got the wife beater and the necklace with the cross and the black duster and walked in the set, and Frank Miller literally backed away. And to Frank, up until that point, it had always just been, he's safe, he's on a page, he can't really hurt me. And then you look up and he's walking towards you. And Frank literally was like... We were so lucky because all the actors that we had to do makeups on, Benicio del Toro and Nick Stahl and Mickey, I mean, these guys were so excited and so into the project. I can't imagine anyone other than Mickey Rourke wearing that Marv makeup. I mean, I kind of look at that as the modern-day Frankenstein.
When I was a kid, Frankenstein was real, the Wolfman was real, the Mummy, and that's why they scared the hell out of me. I thought they were real. I mean, it's only after I saw Man of a Thousand Faces, the story of Lon Chaney, that movie was about somebody creating the monsters. I realized, oh, yeah, of course, somebody creates the monsters.
I watched this movie and went, wow, this is a real guy, right? My dad's like, yeah, it's Lon Chaney, you know? So there happened to be a book out, and he got me the book, and I looked through it and had all these amazing photos of all these makeups, and just like, that's what the real guy looked like, and this is what all the different characters.
Amazing stuff that he came up with. I mean, you know, the Phantom of the Opera makeup with the upturned nose.
One of the great makeups of all time is Phantom of the Opera. Fish hooks and, you know, Lord knows what he put himself through.
He would put pieces of wire in his eyes to pull his eyes down. I mean, talk about a guy who was doing whatever he could for the art of acting and the art of makeup.
And that really inspired me, you know, and that's where I did start to play with, like, really seeing what I could do as far as changing my face with just household items.
A lot of people, Stan Winston and Tom Savini, all started out wanting to be actors.
I wanted to be Lon Chaney when I grew up, so I decided I wanted to be the guy that creates the monsters. Before that, I was a little Italian kid loafing on the corner in Little Italy. And then from that day on, I was shining shoes to buy makeup. I went to grade school with half my eyebrows missing, nose putty in my hair. Then I realized I could make up my friends, you know, so I would, you know, burn the top of their heads off with makeup, slice their throats or their wrists, and they would go home and their parents would scream because they're not in makeup mode. They're like, what happened to my kid? Who did that? Savini. Well, you can't play with him anymore.
I remember being very impressed with Jack Pierce's work, even before I knew who Jack Pierce was. The Mummy and the Wolfman and Frankenstein are pretty indelible creations.
What's amazing is how iconic those makeups are. Jack Pierce creating a makeup on Karloff that is as classic as the Empire State Building. It's this, like, deco perfection.
There's a reason why that Karloff Pierce universal image is just, you know, stamped in even every kid born today. They've seen that Frankenstein, and that's the Frankenstein of their dreams. That's the Frankenstein of their nightmare with the bolts and the flat head. And that's the Frankenstein.
I mean, Jack Pierce was doing incredible makeups with primitive materials.
He would build the makeup every day out of his kit with collodium and cotton.
Karloff would sit there for 9.5 hours while Jack would put layers of cotton to build up Karloff's, you know, brows, and then build his square head and then put the wig on. From scratch.
Every day, that was a new creation.
There were no rubber pieces to glue on, you know.
And one of the reasons Jack Pierce was unceremoniously fired from Universal was that he took too long. And by the 40s, they wanted, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up.
He was using primitive stuff, but creating our classic monsters, you know.
And it all changes with the technology, the ability to make latex pieces that would hold up for the time and to be able to be painted.
And it was just, whoop, you know, was something that took 3 hours, now took 10 minutes. You know, Tom is of the down and dirty school of figuring it out. You know, a lot of, well, you know what, if you just like, I know what'll work. Bam! You know? And he really was very innovative.
He's just got this amazing energy. and had a tremendous influence on some of the stuff that we did. I mean, I could call on Tom to do anything.
Romero's movies always held a fascination for me, just because there was this kind of slightly panic in the 80s about video nasties in the UK. Like, our censor sort of banned everything, and a lot of good films got taken off the shelves. And so Dawn of the Dead was like this legendary movie that everyone talked about.
I mean, I had never seen a movie before that was just kill after kill after kill after kill, people getting shot in the head and heads explosion. It was this beautiful orgy of on-screen makeup effects.
I remember the one picture of David Emge in Dawn of the Dead when he's been zombified and he's got a big hole in his neck, and he's doing one of the best zombie performances in the history of the genre, I think. And looking at it and just thinking, oh my God, what is this?
When David Emge is up the elevator shaft and he gets shot and his arm explodes into blood. Well, I don't have an explosives license then, but I wanted to see an explosion of blood come out of him. So, you know, I would just take a condom and split it open, tape it shut, fill it with blood, tie it around David's arm under his clothes. The hole was already in the clothing, and I would have fish line attached to the tape. So when George, and I'm up in the elevator shaft above him, so that when George says, action, I yank that tape, which opens the rubber, and blood just went, pow.
He was just always coming up with these spontaneous things. It was great. I mean, I could always call Tom up and say, hey, man, we're going to make another one, you know, start thinking of ways to kill zombies.
We all had a day to die, which had nothing to do with the title of the movie, but everybody's death scene, they gave a day to because of the technical. So I was the last death scene.
We referenced that specifically in Shaun of the Dead with Dylan's character. And it's almost like a Romero staple as well. The evisceration moment. You know, it's what you wait for. And I love the way that, you know, you totally buy that somebody would just lie there and allow you to tear them in pieces without struggling like crazy.
I had already talked to George about having a line. Now I was worried about getting the line up because when I walked in, I said, you know, I don't think Rhodes is gonna just say nothing when he dies. And George goes, well, let's remember they've torn your legs off and all you are is a torso. What would you say? And I whispered in his ear and I said,
Choke on him. Choke on him. Great.
Blood is like, so, you know, just, and it was just a mess. But everybody was like, it was a great shot. The shot was great, you know.
Particular kudos to Joe for putting up with the stink of those entrails as well, which were famously rotten.
I was very fortunate because it's a real memorable death scene.
I've known Greg Nicotero since he was 14. He used to come visit the set of Creepshow. We were on, draw sketches for us, you know, and invite us to his house. We would swim in his pool, you know. He was just a great, just a fun guy.
And we met totally coincidentally. Greg was still, I don't know, I don't remember, maybe 12 or 14, something like that. And they were in Italy vacationing, and I was over there working with Dario Argento.
And we're sitting at Alfredo's restaurant in Rome. And we walk in and, you know, everyone's like, hey, look, there's a Coliseum, you know, there's the Forum. And I'm like, yeah, there's George Romero. I mean, literally, at the next table was George Romero.
All of a sudden, this kid comes over to me and says, I'm from Pittsburgh. My name's Greg Nicotero, and I just really love horror movies. And so we chatted a little bit, and I signed an autograph and all that. And he said, can I ever get to do anything like that, do you think? And I said, well, if you really want to, you know, someday.
I kept in touch with them. I went and visited the set of Creepshow a lot.
I think George Romero and Chris Romero gave him the job on Day of the Dead, you know, some job, and I took him as my assistant.
I always acknowledged and thanked George Romero for basically being the guy that opened the doors for me.
Every movie I saw, the Friday the 13th, the movies like Happy Birthday to Me and The Prowler. The Prowler was a huge influence. Any movie that I saw that Tom Savini did the makeup on, I would go see. When I wrote my first film, Cabin Fever, I very consciously wrote a makeup effects film. I said, I don't want a movie that's going to be about CG. It's about the body deteriorating, and we really have to see it. And when people read the script, they'd say, well, the effects had better be good. Are you going to use CG? And I'm like, no. We're going to use real practical makeup effects.
I suppose I thought that, you know, they were just going to slap a bunch of blood on my face and some bruising, and I don't know. I thought it would be pretty simple. But, You know, they really created wounds, and, you know, there was so much dimension to what they put on my face.
The moment where Jordan Ladd rolls over and her face is all rotted out right before Ryder Strong smashes her in the head with a shovel, I was really, really pleased with that because we needed her to still be alive, and it really looked like her skin had been peeled off.
I guess I was sort of an effects virgin before that, but then I kind of got hooked on the experience. I love the blood, and I love being covered in blood.
Remember the leg shaving scene? It was supposed to be the skin peeling off like a banana, but in shipping the parts, there was a freeze that happened that we weren't expecting, and a lot of the makeup effects that had been made got frozen. They got destroyed in the freeze. You know, we sat there and we thought, okay, how are we going to get this? How are we going to get her to shave her legs with this whole makeup effect that we've planned? And we thought, okay, what if, you know, we just do the full makeup on it and she's slowly revealing it? And it wound up being so much more effective.
And it gets a wild scream every time people see it.
That was an improv moment, and it became really the centerpiece of the film.
This is the guy that created The Exorcist, The Godfather, Midnight Cowboy, The Sentinel. This was the guy, the pioneer. He invents all the techniques that all the guys use today.
I knew that in Hollywood, when they did a transformation, they would generally make it out of foam latex, but all in one piece. The problem with that was simple. Foam latex shrinks. So when you tried to put it on, you would be fighting the smallness of the mask. And I thought, well, why don't I make it in sections?
What Dick was doing was unlike anybody else, you know, just these multi-piece appliances and just the way things looked. They just really looked real. It just felt like if you could touch it, it would feel like real flesh. There's just something Dick had an eye for creating the right form, the right wrinkle over this wrinkle and fold over this fold.
Makeup artists didn't share their secrets, you know, competition, whatever, but not Dick Smith. You would call Dick Smith on the phone. Why? What is it? I'm busy. And you're scared because it's Dick Smith, you know. Then you would ask him a question, an hour and a half later, he's still telling you how to do the formulas. And then he would type it up and Xerox it in those days and mail it to you. He shared his secrets.
When I was a kid, when I was 6 years old, I saw The Exorcist, and it traumatized me. I thought it was completely real. I thought you could get possessed by the devil.
The intensity was so great that sitting in the theater, National Theater in Westwood, sitting there, when the lights went down, everybody went, ah, you know, everyone was scared before it started.
The Linda makeup, the basic demonic phase, was the toughest one. We did a series of 6 different makeups right off to test, and going crazy. I mean, doing anything. But they wanted to see, you know, go whole hog. And there was nothing in the first half dozen that pleased any of us. And so I did another half dozen. But Billy Friedkin, the director, then decided that we should tone it all down, make it as little as possible. And I wasn't too happy about that. And then I think we went into more different tests. And finally, we started coming back in the other direction.
The makeup on her was just increasingly startling and weird. I do remember that when she did the vomiting, that a Hispanic woman stood up in the middle of the audience screaming and said, Dios mío, Dios mío, and she ran up the aisle just screaming.
Eileen Dietz did all the vomiting scenes, and it was easy to put the makeup on that Linda wore, and it was a pretty good match.
They had to make a vomiting apparatus for the vomiting scene, which was kind of like a bit that went in your mouth and had teeny, teeny tubes that ran under the makeup. And of course, I couldn't talk when I heard it. I couldn't talk, and I couldn't eat.